Hey, this is Rick Casalge, injury specialist from exercisesforinjuries.com. In today's video, I wanted to go through yoga for hip pain and stiffness. And I'll get Alex to demonstrate the first exercise, and then I'll end up going through it in detail and show you 4 more to help you with your hip pain and stiffness. There we go. That's the first one. The first one ends up being cobra or back arches. Good, and then coming back down. Good. So you can start off in lying down on your stomach. Hands are just below your shoulders. You're in good alignment. You're going to press up, arch through that upper body. So you're extending in the hip, low back, and upper body. You're in good alignment, kind of in that cobra position. I'm going to hold for a second or two, and then come back down. Good. You're relaxing the rest of the body. Good, perfect. So with this one, what we're really working on is stretching out the front of the hip, working on the hip extension, and also working on the mobility in that lower back. All of those things will end up helping you with hip pain and hip stiffness. When it comes to sets, reps, time, and intensity, sets 1, repetitions 5, time, just like Alex is doing, a smooth controlled movement. And the intensity, what we're looking at is getting a light stretch in the front of the hip, thigh, and light mobility movement in that low back area. So that ends up being the first one. Now the second one ends up being foot to hand. So you move up into like a plank position, and then you're going to bring, there we go, right, and there we go. So then you're going to hold that position, really stretching out that hip, the knees coming out a little bit, and really trying to bring that knee into flexion. Holding that for a couple seconds, and then bringing it back into that plank position, and then other side. Good. So you can see Alex brings that left leg up, that left leg by the left hand, and then she kind of drops into that hip. That drops the hip into that hip joint, holds for a couple seconds, brings that leg back, and then switches sides. So step, and then you can see that she sits into that hip joint. So this one, what we're really working on is hip flexibility, working on hip mobility, and then stretching out that hamstring and glutes. And you can see as she ends up holding that movement, she's able to get deeper into that hip joint. And then she would alternate to the other side. So with this one, sets, reps, time, and intensity. Sets 1, repetitions 5 on each side, and as you saw Alex do, alternating back and forth. When it comes to time, smooth controlled movement, and then coming to a hold a second or two. But if you hold that end position longer, you're able to get deeper into that hip joint. And then intensity, you're looking for a light stretch. It could be in the hamstring and the glutes, but then also in kind of a stretching in the joint, in that hip joint, to improve the mobility or movement in that joint. So that's the second one to do. The third one, we're going to do 90-90 with arms overhead. So going into a 90-90s position, and then bring the arms overhead. Good. Holding for a couple seconds, and then relaxing, and bring the arms down, and then switching sides, so alternating legs. Good. So there you go. So Alex, front legs flat, bent at 90, so ankle, knee, and hip are at 90. Back leg, legs flat, knee, hip is at 90. She tightens up her abdominal and glutes and brings herself hips a little bit forward, and then brings those arms overhead to intensify the stretch. Good, and she's alternating back and forth. What we're working on here is really stretching out the thigh and the front of the hip and that abdominal area, all to help with the hip pain and hip stiffness. When it comes to sets, reps, time, and intensity, sets 1, repetitions 5 on each side, so alternating back and forth. Time, looking for a good hold, so hold it for a good second or two, but then you can also hold it for longer in order to get more benefit from the exercise. Intensity, we're looking for a light stretch, and that'll be in the front of the thigh and the front of the hip. Now moving from this one, this third one, we're going to go into the fourth one, which ends up being pigeon pose. Good. So what you end up doing is you're bringing that foot in and dropping to the side, and you're going to hold that for a couple seconds, and then you'll come out of it. Good. And then moving to the other side. So that 90-90, dropping into that stretch. Good. Really working on the external rotation out of that hip, and really working on stretching those deep hip rotators, and also working on the mobility in that hip joint. So you're going to hold for a couple seconds, then you're going to switch sides. So you can see Alex switching sides, getting into that 90-90 position, then dropping to the side and rotating that leg out and external rotation, and really working on the mobility in the hip and the rotation in those hip rotators, stretching them out. So when it comes to sets, reps, time, and intensity, sets would be 1. Repetitions would be 5 on each side, alternating back and forth. And the hold, you want to hold for at least a good stop, so 1 to 2 seconds. But if you hold it longer, you're going to end up getting more out of the stretch and the mobility that ends up happening in that hip. Now the 5th one that you're going to move into, so you're going to move from the pigeon pose, you're going to end up moving into a deep squat. So you've got the feet like shoulder width apart, toes are out, and then you're going to squat down as deep as you can, bring those knees and those thighs, and really sit back in those hips. Holding it for a second or two and then coming out. And once again, just like the other ones, you'll go back into it, and the longer you can kind of hold the position, the bottom position, the more benefit that you'll end up getting, stretching out the muscles around the hip, and then also working on the mobility or movement of the hip. Perfect. And I'll get you to face that way, Alex. We see it from the side. So standing upright, toes are out, wide stance, shoulder width apart, going into that deep squat, and then you can see that she ends up sitting into the hips in order to get more of a stretch in the glutes, and then work on the mobility in that hip joint area. So when it comes to sets, reps, and time, sets 1, repetitions 5, time, you want to go in, you want to hold that bottom position for a stop, so a second or two. But if you can go a little bit longer, you'll get more benefit when it comes to the stretching in the muscles in the glutes, like the hamstrings and the glutes, and also work on the mobility or movement in that hip area. When it comes to intensity, we're looking at a light stretch in the muscles around the hip, and light movement or stretching in that hip joint. So there you go. Give those 5 exercises a go, those 5 yoga exercises a go, to help you when it comes to relieving your hip pain and stiffness. Now, if you want some of my other best tips when it relates to what to do about hip pain, then click right here. I have a brand new free report called 5 Tricks That Fight Hip Pain and Tightness. Click right here. Let me know where to send you that brand new free report, and I'll send you that brand new free report right away. Now, if you're watching this on a mobile device, tablet, smartphone, head down below in the description and click the first link, which will end up being exercisesforinjuries.com/hips. Let me know where to send that report, and I'll send you that report right away. Now, if you got benefit from this video, make sure you like this video. If you have a question or comment for me, leave it down below in the comment section. And then lastly, hit subscribe in order to get future pain relieving videos.